In 1769, a Scottish instrument maker named James Watt received a patent for an improved steam engine. This alone didn't start the Industrial Revolution. Steam power had existed in rudimentary forms for decades. But Watt's engine was dramatically more efficient than its predecessors, and it could be applied to far more tasks than just pumping water from mines. Combined with Britain's unique combination of coal deposits, navigable rivers, an empire supplying raw materials, a merchant class with capital to invest, and a legal system that protected property rights and enforced contracts, Watt's engine helped ignite the most fundamental transformation in human existence since the invention of agriculture 10,000 years earlier. The textile industry was the revolution's first battleground. Britain had been exporting wool for centuries, but the invention of the spinning jenny, the water frame, and the power loom mechanized cloth production on an unprecedented scale. Textile mills in Lancashire and Yorkshire employed thousands of workers, many of them children as young as 5 or 6, who worked 12 to 16-hour days in deafening, dangerous conditions. Cotton, fed by the brutal slave labor plantations of the American South, became Britain's dominant industry. By 1850, Britain was producing half the world's cotton cloth and iron, and 2/3 of its coal. The world's first industrial nation had arrived. The railroad transformed space and time in ways that are difficult to imagine from our vantage point. Before railways, travel was limited by the speed of horses, typically 10 to 15 miles per hour, and only in good conditions. The first public steam railway opened in 1825 between Stockton and Darlington. By 1850, Britain had over 6,000 miles of track. By 1900, over 18,000. Trains moved goods and people at 30 to 60 miles per hour, year-round, regardless of weather. They created national markets where regional ones had existed. They standardized time. Before railways, every town kept its own local time. The need for railway timetables forced Britain to adopt Greenwich Mean Time universally in 1847. They shrank the world. The human cost of early industrialization was severe and largely invisible to those who profited from it. Life expectancy in British industrial cities actually decreased in the early 19th century, as workers crowded into slums without clean water, sanitation, or adequate food. Manchester's mortality rate in the 1840s was 28 per thousand, worse than in rural areas a century earlier. Child labor was endemic and brutal. Friedrich Engels, working in his family's Manchester textile mill, documented the conditions and the condition of the working class in England in 1845, a work that helped inspire the communist analysis he and Karl Marx would develop in the Communist Manifesto 3 years later. Industrial capitalism had generated its own most radical critics. The Industrial Revolution spread from Britain to continental Europe and North America through a process that involved both voluntary adoption and industrial espionage. Britain tried to restrict the emigration of skilled mechanics and the export of machinery, and failed. By the mid-19th century, Belgium, France, and the German states were industrializing rapidly. The United States, with its vast resources and shortage of labor that made labor-saving machinery especially attractive, emerged as an industrial powerhouse in the latter half of the century. By 1900, American industrial output had surpassed Britain's. The revolution's core technologies, steam power, iron and steel, railways, telegraph, spread across the globe, transforming societies and economies everywhere they reached. The long-term consequences of the Industrial Revolution are still unfolding. It created the modern world economy and modern living standards. Life expectancy in industrialized nations roughly doubled between 1800 and 2000. It created the urban world. In 1800, less than 10% of the world's population lived in cities. Today that figure approaches 60%. It created the middle class, the trade union movement, democracy's expansion, public education, and modern medicine. It also created industrial-scale warfare, environmental pollution, and the carbon emissions now driving climate change. The great irony is that the same revolution that raised billions out of poverty may, through its atmospheric consequences, threaten the conditions that make civilization possible.